We're brought to you by an ice-cold Budweiser and an oyster po' boy at Martin's in Livingston. Their wings are amazing, too. Great place to watch hoops, March Madness, and so on. Martin's in Livingston, the Out of Bounds Show, 105.9 The Zone ESPN. And our guests join us on the Farm Bureau Insurance guest line. Bundle your auto and home and save with your local Farm Bureau Insurance agent. Powered by competitive rates. We welcome in our friend Tom Luginbill, national college football analyst with ESPN. Are you in Charlotte?
I am not. Right now I'm down in Naples, Florida with some friends of ours. Spending a couple of days. Head back home to Charlotte tomorrow.
You're in Naples?
Yeah.
Dude, that place is awesome.
Yes, it is.
Man, Rocky Patel lives there, and last time interviewed him,
I was out on the water. I was out on the water yesterday.
Yeah,
and his boat rolled right by us.
Are you freaking serious, Luginbill?
I'm dead serious, and it was not a small boat.
No, it's not. Not when you. I think the last time I looked it up, he sells 32 million cigars a year, so you can do the math on that. Yeah, that's cool. All right. So have y'all been to a cool restaurant yet?
Yeah, we've been to a couple of different places. The Dock, Riverwalk, Joe's Cafe. Like, there's some really good spots down here. I mean, to me, like, for somebody who grew up in Southern California, you kind of get, when you walk around down here and you go up and down the main streets and this and that, it's kind of like what Beverly Hills used to be.
Okay.
On the West Coast, you know. And so, yeah, it's a great place to visit.
I've been to Beverly Hills, but not early like you did. I didn't go till like 2010. So
it's different now.
Yeah. But we got an invite to that cigar club there, and it was unbelievable. But anyway, all right. So Tom Luginbill is in Naples, and he's there for all of us. So everybody know that today
right.
As you're driving into work. Tom Luginbill is smoking really good cigars. Having some good libations and good food in Naples for all of us. Let's all right. Let's talk. It's fun. The draft is fun. People geek out on it, and it's we've got a guy here that it looks like has. I think he went from like a third round pick to possibly going in the first round for one because he's good. Two, because Carson Beck didn't have the year he wanted. It's coming back. Milroe, it may drop in the draft. And some other things. But now I'm going to continue to ask you this. Do you have a surefire – Cam Ward's your surefire number one on your draft board, right? At QB?
I don't have a surefire number one, though, because I don't think it's a great quarterback class.
You're not the only one to tell us that. Go ahead.
Yeah. Listen, top to bottom. Now, are there some intriguing options? Are there some back half round guys where you say – that guy could be a steal. Maybe it's a Kyle McCord. Maybe it's a Curtis Rourke. Maybe it's a Will Howard. But even when you start to get into that conversation of Cam Ward, Shedeur Sanders, Jackson Dart, Quinn Ewers, you can throw Jalen Milroe in the conversation. I think, and I've talked to some NFL guys that have real concerns about the long-term success possibilities of a lot of these guys. Now, the one thing that I think is really, really important, and this is where Jackson Dart, Kyle McCord, I would say Will Howard, and probably Curtis Rourke have some advantages, and that is that they've played a ton of snaps. There's a really large sample size. Now, you may say, well, why does that matter? What if there's a 3-and-out talented phenom? Well, it matters because there's proof it matters. Look at Bo Nix. Look at Jaden Daniels, right? And you find yourself in a situation where, because of the COVID year, because of redshirting, because of sitting, and all of a sudden you have another extra 150 to 200 snaps than you normally would have. You've seen a lot of things, right? You're older, you're more mature, your leadership skills have flourished, and they've started to advance, and then that transitions to making that learning curve less steep. Now, what we have in this class is we've got, a 3-and-out guy in Shedeur Sanders. We have a guy in Cam Ward that falls more into the camp of Bo Nix and Jaden Daniels, right? I think that's a positive for him. The downside is, and a lot of people are going to look at this and they're going to say, why does that matter? Well, look at history in the NFL. Cam Ward comes from almost a strictly dominant air raid form of offensive system, which is fine. It's one of the greatest offensive systems in the history of college football. You look at the last 30 years of the NFL, and you can name like 3 or 4 guys that have been able to last in the NFL, become probable, marketable, high-value starters. So you start to ask yourself, okay, is Cam Ward Patrick Mahomes, or is Cam Ward Bryce Petty? And you start naming off all those names, and you start to look at all of these guys that are prominent college football, really talented guys, but didn't make it in the National Football League.
That was well done. Tom Luginbill on the Farm Bureau Insurance Guest Line. I like that. You just can't put a price on experience and starting a ton of games and playing well and not playing well. It just
and let's really, if you really put this thing under a microscope. So whether it's for your listeners or people who love to listen to podcasts or watch TV shows that are covering the draft and this and that, like, we've got to understand the rarefied air that the people we're talking about are in, right? And the failure rate in the first round is 50%.
Wow.
On one guy. It's not like, okay, we're signing a class of 25, 17-year-olds, and we're crossing our fingers that we hit on 60% of them.
Right.
That means that you're going to miss on 10 guys. You don't know which 10, but going in that the numbers are going to tell you that's what's going to happen. Well, if you look, so there's 32 NFL teams. There's just a smidge over 2,000 players on NFL rosters, all right? Only 320 rookies will make an NFL opening day roster, okay? So you're going to have roughly, 300, maybe a little bit more than that drafted. And then the average player career, forget about becoming a starter, forget about becoming a great player, is around 3.3 years, all right? So we're trying to project a number that the failure rate is so high that, to be honest with you, it's anybody's guess, like, whether a guy is going to make it or not. You can do all the homework you want, but it guarantees you nothing.
Yeah. All right, so let's dive in and still debate it. And, all right, outside of – so Cam and Shedeur are the names that are thrown out first for most everybody. Fair or not?
Yeah.
Okay. And then the second group is Dart, Milroe. Rourke tore his ACL. I don't know how. I mean, he's a hell of a football player, Lugs, but I don't know how that.
Played a ton of football, too.
He played a ton of football.
Successful.
Yes, he was. Good grief. But I don't know how that will impact his. For our listeners, he played at Indiana, and before that.
He was a 3-year starter at Ohio.
Yes.
Yep.
Kurt Cignetti grabbed him, which is one of the best gets in the portal since the portal has opened several years ago. Good grief. And so that'll be interesting to see how it impacts his draft status because they know he can ball. Like, who balled out? Kyle McCord, Luke's at Syracuse.
Oh, yeah.
That dude played his tail off. And, how do you project him? I mean, is he do you project him as, no, Bo, look, he's going to be a backup, which is still a great way to make 50 to 100 million. Or
sure.
No, I think maybe in the right franchise with the right coach, Shanahan, McVay, Peyton, who all these dudes are, all these super talented guys. In the right spot, he could actually start in the NFL for a few years. How do you project Kyle McCord?
I think if Brock Purdy has put himself in that position, right, then you look at a guy like Kyle McCord and you say, okay, if you get to the right place at the right time with the right personnel around you and the opportunity presents itself, and that's really what so much of this is. And then you take advantage of it and you make the most of the opportunity. I put Kyle McCord kind of in the same boat as Will Howard. Now, Will's a better athlete. He's going to be able to probably get you out of more trouble. But they've played at a highly productive level. I don't know if anybody looks at Kyle McCord and says, okay, this guy is an elite level anything. He may be really, really good in a lot of areas, not elite in any one single area.
Okay.
But he's played a lot of football, and I think there's value in that. Does that mean he could go in and become a Nick Foles type guy for somebody?
Okay.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Could Will Howard be a Nick Foles type somebody? Absolutely. Could they be in a position to where
Alex Smith.
they become well, Alex Smith was supremely talented. He just had a lot of bad luck.
You're right.
I mean, remember, let's not forget, Alex Smith.
He was balling out
from Kansas. Yeah, got traded from Kansas City, and had been to AFC Championship games, and then obviously has the injury at Washington. But like a guy, and I'm going to say this name, but a guy played for, I want to say close to 13 or 14 years. All of these guys we're talking about right now, maybe even a Curtis Rourke, although I think Curtis Rourke's a little bit different, but they all could end up being Chase Daniel. Remember Chase Daniel from Missouri? Great career there under Gary Pinkel, and then got himself into the National Football League. And he was always smarter than the next guy, maybe not as talented as the next guy, but reliable and trustworthy so he'd make the roster. And he did that for a long time. And then if he had to play, he played pretty decently. And I think a lot of the guys in this draft group kind of fall into that category.
I think you nailed that. Okay, so what you said, Curtis Rourke, for our listeners, Indiana went to the college football playoffs, had a magnificent year, best year ever.
Yeah.
And Curt Cignetti found him at Ohio, and it really worked. But he tore his ACL at the end of the year. You said he's a little bit different. What'd you mean?
I think there's something about him. He's got some anticipatory traits and the ability to work through progressions and process really, really quickly. And he's a guy who hasn't been necessarily in the spread. He's been in spread concepts, but even going back to Tim Albin's Ohio teams that he played for there, who's now the coach of Charlotte, by the way. And then, you look at Curt Cignetti, and Curt Cignetti has publicly said this. Everybody oftentimes in the transfer portal is looking for the high-profile guy that everybody knew is a high-profile recruit. Curt Cignetti went into the transfer portal and says, I want the most highly productive player. I don't care what his name is, and I don't care where he was at previously. How productive was this guy when he played? And I think there's a lot of value in that. And there's a large sample size for the NFL to value and scrutinize and all of those different things with that guy. And I use the term scrutinize, right? Because it kind of always leads me to this one guy. But this is what we're in scrutinize season, right? Yeah. Everybody's either trying to check the right box or discover the red flag. Those are the two targets. And when you're doing that, the number one guy that I think is the most controversial is Shedeur Sanders. Because if you go through and you just look at talent, you're going to really like Shedeur Sanders, right? If you go through and you say, okay, how many actual good teams or good defenses did he play well against and did they beat? And it's hard to find any.
Wow.
Okay. Now, are there a variety of reasons for that? Absolutely. Doesn't have great personnel around him. Certainly did at the skill spots. But even last year, though they improved in the offensive line, they were not a good football team in the offensive line, right? And so he's constantly having to, I think, overperform with the weight of the team on his shoulders. And you know what that's led to? And you watch him, and I hear NFL guys talk about this all the time, and they're right. He has bad habits. And his worst bad habit is holding on to the football.
Mm-hmm.
And it's derived from a habit that you love, and that's a desire to utilize his competitive temperament to never let the play die, which you can get away with in college if you're supremely talented.
Right.
You hold onto the ball like that in the National Football League, you're in serious trouble, right? So then you ask yourself, can we iron out the bad habits? And if so, how do we do it? And I think, to be honest with you, and I think he's a really talented guy, highly productive, can do some special things. And I've said this before, and I take a lot of heat for this comment. If his name was Shedeur Smith, would we be having the same conversation about him as a prospect?
No.
Okay. So, and I hear a lot of people echo exactly what you just said. What's interesting to me is that for some reason there's this public sentiment that nobody's allowed to criticize Colorado or critique Colorado. Nobody's allowed to critique Deion Sanders. Nobody's allowed to critique Shedeur Sanders or have an opinion that isn't just this glowing adoration. Well, that's not reality. And so I try to look at it far from more of an objective standpoint of comparative analysis. Forget the names, just throw the tape on, forget the players, forget the number on the jersey, and see what happens.
Right. That's a good way to frame it up. Tom Luginbill with ESPN. He joins us on the Farm Bureau Insurance guest line. And the show is driven by your next Ford Explorer at Mack Hike Ford, I-55 North in Jackson. Pre-owned and new Ford Explorers. They've got plenty there. Best inventory in the state. I want to go back to holding the football. And I've watched all these interviews and documentaries with Peyton Manning and Tom Brady. And they talk about how important it is to get the ball out of your hand, which you just alluded to. Now, Steve Palazzolo, Pro Football Focus, comes on the show a lot. And he says the overwhelming majority of the time, I want to see what you think. You started Power 5 at QB. You've coached QBs, all this. He says that the majority of the time, sacks are on the quarterback for holding the ball. You agree with that?
100%.
Okay.
Now, if you would have asked me that question 25 years ago, I don't know if I would have been as emphatic about it. But in today's game, with all of the underneath stuff, all of the shotgun-based offenses, nobody plays under center anymore, right? Mm-hmm. If you're not getting the ball out of your hand and you're not making and processing decisively, you heard me mention anticipatory traits, meaning throwing the ball to a spot on time, and that guy better be there, right? You're anticipating that he's going to be there. You're going to anticipate the window. If you're not doing that, that's on you. And there's not an offensive line that can save you from that. The offensive line is there to buy you time. But if you hold on to the ball or you pat the ball more so than any time in the history of the sport, there's no question that sacks are a quarterback stat.
Okay. Tom Luginbill talking QBs with us on the Out of Bounds show, ESPN 105.9 The Zone. All things are equal. Both are healthy, all that. Who, as a general manager, Lugs, who would you draft? Jackson Dart or Curtis Rourke?
Jackson Dart.
Okay.
And I say that for a couple reasons. Number one, Curtis Rourke has a history of injury. By the way, that's his second ACL. He had one in Ohio too. Mm-hmm. And I do believe that, guys who have exhibited a long history of injury, Tua Tagovailoa is a great example. They generally are going to, at some point or another, be injured again.
Blake Shapen, go ahead.
Yeah, Blake Shapen, same thing. So that's just kind of part of the deal. The thing that I think people like about Jackson Dart is, number one, like we said, he played a ton of football. But he's also played a ton of football in an offense that people want to label as a spread offense, but really what they are is a heavy play-action team that pushes the ball vertically. They're not a dink-and-dunk team, meaning that when you turn on the tape, you're going to see Jackson Dart have to make throws that are not easy throws, right? Whether that's at what I would term the intermediate level of the field, so 12 to 25, and then the deep level of the field, 25 and beyond. He does a lot of that, like a ton of it. And then on top of it, you add the toughness, the athleticism, the gunslinger mentality. It's going to be really attractive to people. And so I think that, and it's one of the reasons why he's rising up the charts. And again, we're in scrutinizing season. So every time he gets on the board with an NFL position coach or a scout or whatever, he's being scrutinized. Every time he does a pro day, he's being scrutinized. They're trying to check the boxes. They're trying to identify red flags all the time. Because by this point, They've seen the tape. They've seen all of the play. They've seen the production. They know what their record is. They've taken his best 5 games against the highest-ranked opponents. They've taken his worst 5 games against the highest-ranked opponents. They've broken him down to the last play. So now it becomes a, who's the pretty girl to take to the dance? Mm-hmm. And you have to start to really uncover personality quirks, body language, identifying competitive temperament, mental toughness, theory of the game, how does he interact with other teammates and other peers. That's the world we're in right now.
All right. All things. Where do you have Dylan? We've got a couple of minutes here too. Where does Dylan Gabriel fit in for you in all this discussion?
I think if he was 6'2" or 3, he'd be one of the highest ranked players in this draft class because his production level is so high, and he's done it with 3 different teams. He's done it at the Group of 5 level. He's done it at Oklahoma. He's done it now at Oregon, and he is. Now, you talk about getting the ball out of your hand. That dude can get the ball out of his hand. He just doesn't have what I would label as the ideal elite level physical measurables or skill set that NFL teams crave and would love to have. And it doesn't mean he can't be successful. But what happens is it puts others who have that in a little bit of a different light than him. But I think if you ask me, okay, how talented is he? I would respond to you, I don't care how talented he is. Ask me how productive he is. Mm-hmm. That dude is productive.
He's going to make a roster.
I think so. I mentioned the Chase Daniels, the Ty Detmers.
Right.
What was the kid out of Houston that played forever? University of Houston.
Keenum?
Oh, gosh. Case Keenum. I mean, all of those guys, there's a reason they're around.
Yeah.
And there's a reason to make a roster every time. And it's generally the same list of reasons.
Yeah. That was awesome. All right. Tom Luginbill on the Farm Bureau Insurance Guest Line talking QBs and NFL drafts. It's going to be a ton of fun. See what shakes out here. I think the draft's in Green Bay. So from now till late April.
Hope it ain't outdoors.
Hey, enjoy Naples. And
will do, buddy.
Have a cigar for me. We'll talk soon, okay?
Sounds good, pal. See ya.
Tom Luginbill, National College Football Analyst with ESPN, talking Jackson Dart and all the QBs that want to go first, second, third round or just make a roster. He joined us on the Out of Bounds show, brought to you by Independent Roofing Systems, the #1 commercial industrial roofing company in Mississippi, roofing.ms.
Say, kids, what time is it?
It's 9 a.m. and this ain't okay show. It's the Out of Bounds Show with Bo Bounds.
All aboard!
As Mississippi's #1 morning show rolls on the Zone 105.9 and online at thezone1059.com.
All right, good morning, good morning. Welcome into the Out of Bounds Show. 105.9 The Zone, ESPN. Brought to you by Burgers, Blues, Barbecue, B3, baby. B3 in Madison, Dogwood, Flowwood, Brandon, Smash Burger, Blue Plates, Onion Rings, Burgers, Blues, Barbecue, Dogwood, Flowwood, Madison, Brandon, for the win. Or as my son would say, that's lit. That's what he said to me on the band that we were going to see. Pothole Paradise.
Love it.
Pothole Paradise played at Rick's on Saturday night, and I was there, and I'm paying the price. I am not a late night guy. I'm not a go to the bars guy after 6. Yeah, I'm an afternoon. Like I go see, Eisenhood at,
Right.
oh gosh, I don't know, 11:45 on a Saturday morning. Smash a cheeseburger
Great time.
and a Budweiser. But I can't. I've realized that I can't do older brother for lunch, the landing, Little Dewey's with my daughter for crawfish deal, back to the landing, take a break for several hours, and meet them at Rick's at, I guess I got there at 9? Because I remember I got in the Uber at 11:06, and I thought, I've long turned into a pumpkin or whatever, But anyway, you're only here once. And what the hell? We are the Out of Bounds Show, 105.9 The Zone, ESPN. A couple of different ways that you can get in touch with us. The text line, we want to hear from you. Mac Hike Auto Group text line, 601. I almost gave out my number.
Nice.
That would have been awesome.
Rail it off.
601-885-3776.
Give it out.
Twitter X at BoBounds. And the Bud Light caller line is 601-707-3750. Bud Light and Burgers. Call Jackson and I will join you. Ice cold Bud Light and a really, really good smash burger. I'm in. We'd love to hear from you. Are you streaming or listening on ESPN 105.9 The Zone? Where are you listening from, and what did you have over the weekend that was really good? And the feedback we got an hour ago was incredible. I love it. I mean, this dude put bacon on his pasta. What? I've never done that. I love pasta. I love, Wendy and I will put shrimp in there, black olives, chicken, deer sausage, crawfish, any number of things. And I don't have to have a protein, but I do like a protein in the pasta. And I love all the different kinds of pastas. I guess I probably have at some point with all the traveling, but this guy texts us, Jackson, and he just you know,
By the way, I'm a fan.
look at this. He sends us a picture. I don't know how he took. Anyway, it's a beautiful plate, great looking dish of pasta. And he said, I had Sister Schubert rolls and I made a simple pasta with olive oil, black olives, and bacon. I don't think I've ever had bacon on pasta. Have you, Hot Shot?
Maybe some, there's a shrimp carbonara.
Oh, at Olive, whatever,
It's actually,
Olive Garden?
It's actually at the,
Olive Garden was good in 2000.
man, what is the one? There's a,
Used to hit the
it's
one
a
in
chain.
Pensacola.
Destin? It's in Destin Commons.
Tallahassee.
Remember, there's an Italian joint in the Destin Commons.
Okay. So, hold on.
Oh, what's it called? It's always slammed, obviously, or maybe it's where it's the Sandestin outlet. Sorry, not the Destin Commons. It's the outlet mall.
I hadn't been to that. I mean, I've driven by it a million times, but I haven't been to the outlet mall in 20 years. Thank God. Hold on. I've got Pazzo Italiano Destin. I've got La Famiglia something.
Amiglia.
Yeah, okay.
Something.
And Mimos. There could be others.
Let me see.
There could be others, my man.
That sounds familiar.
But that may not be it. You really think it's in the...
It's Carrabba's.
Oh, good hell.
Yeah, Carrabba's. You know, it's the... oh, come on. That's the... what do you call that? The chain that's above Applebee's, though. It's still a chain. It's still better than Applebee's.
Is it really?
Yeah, it's not
It's
bad.
better than an Applebee's cheeseburger.
It's better than Olive Garden. And I love Olive Garden.
Olive Garden was good 25 years ago.
Man.
It hasn't held, but
No.
most franchises don't. I mean, more power to them when if you have a 25-year run, that's awesome,
That's incredible.
right?
Yeah. Carrabba's Italian Grill.
I don't think I've ever been to one.
Man,
I'm gonna try to make it to whenever their last deal is.
They crush it.
I don't believe you.
It's the only
But I
place to eat
hammered
right there.
Olive Garden in the late 90s, early 2000s. I hammered Outback for years.
Yeah.
Because I was always staying near. I mean, it was just easy. Hell, we went to the Outback in Penn State. How funny is that? Now, we went to a local place the first night on Friday night. It was a really cool steakhouse. That's when I told them they cheated in football, and my two buddies thought that we were with three former Joe Paul players from the 80s, and I think they thought I was going to get pummeled.
Probably.
But I didn't know then that they were about to go through one of the biggest scandals in the history of sports. But anyway, the next night we went to Outback. It was fabulous. What? I'm trying to think of some others. I mean the Palm, but that's a little bit different level of franchise.
Yeah,
Don't you agree?
It's a little more upscale.
Yeah. I've been to the one in LA and the one in Miami. Is that right?
Miami.
The one in Los Angeles is right by the Grammy Museum, downtown. It's kind of on the way to Southern Cal. It's, but I all those people hobnob before and after those parties. Believe it or not, some.
Little hobnobbing.
Yeah.
Love that word.
You're a hobnobber.
Love being a hobnobber.
No doubt about it. Tom Luginbill just crushed it on this show. No one else in the state will have that kind of NFL draft coverage. Hell, maybe in a 3 or 4 state area. I texted him and I was like, you on Jackson Dart, on Shedeur Sanders, Kyle McCord out of Syracuse, Will Howard out of Ohio State, Curtis Rourke out of Indiana, Dylan Gabriel out of Central Florida, Oklahoma, and Oregon. Let's see. He hit on Milroe for a minute. He used the comps of Jaden Daniels and Bo Nix, and then he threw in, Chase Daniels and who's made a fortune as a backup, and Case Keenum, Nick Foles. I love the way kind of looked around there. Man, what if Dart goes one? What if he's QB1?
Come on.
What if he leapfrogs Cam and Shedeur?
Not out of the question.
I'm not. It may not be. Back for another hot segment. Oh, hold on. How about this?
By the way, I'm a fan.
Yeah, me too.
By the way, I'm a fan.
Wow, Sean is passionate about his pasta. You know, I mean, and I like that. I like it when your passion bucket's full, whether it's March Madness and your Ole Miss Rebels or Mississippi State Bulldogs. I really like Padula, by the way. He is a cool, fun player to watch. He's got I talked about Murray, but Padula reminds me of a tough as hell, like New York, Philadelphia kid. He just plays with a ton of confidence, bunch of FU, which I love. I love watching him play. He's, to pick him up from Virginia Tech, where's he from? Edmond, Oklahoma. I can see that too. Tough as hell, probably grew up on some kind of ranch or something. Do you know where Edmond, Oklahoma is? You spent a lot of time up there in between trips with us, or in between.
Actually, yeah, sure did. Actually, don't remember if I ate there or not, but we drove through there for sure.
They probably have a Carbonaras. Did I say that right? Carbonara. Okay. Sean in Gulfport, no, Gaucher, excuse me, on our text line is very passionate about the spaghetti carbonara. Did I say that right?
That's it.
Not Carrabba's, though. He's just talking about the dish.
Right.
Okay. So he's not passionate about that chain you were talking about.
Oh, that's on him.
Thank God. I haven't made it to one, and you know me, that probably means I'm not going to make it to one. I guess unless I'm traveling, and I don't know how much more runway they have, where they are kind of in there. I know they, like a lot of them that survive out of the gate, they rolled. And I bet that one in Destin, because you got it, like when you have kids, 4, 6, 8 years old, I would think that works. You got to fill them up with pasta and spaghetti and the bread, dipping in the red sauce, things like that. I mean, I remember that survival type stuff. But yeah, that's not where I'm going. But there's some other cool places to go, and I do actually go to a chain in Destin. The Ruth's Chris's there has been spot on for years.
Yeah. That one actually is pretty good.
It is.
There is a carbonara that pulls 5.1 mil a year.
Damn, that's strong.
Especially
on pasta.
That's just one.
You're probably at 20+%.
That's just one of the restaurants. That's the one in Pittsburgh.
Your net could be
1
point. Do they sell booze?
Yes.
Okay. So, yeah, you could pull some gator out of that.
Some pasta?
5.1 off pasta.
Come on.
Yeah. Because pasta and pizzas, I mean,
cheap.
It's like breakfast food, man. Those margins are yummy. Mm-hmm. They're delicious. But this guy says Padula is tough because he has 6 siblings. I did not know that. Yeah. I really love watching him play. He is worth, first of all, what he did down the stretch against Vanderbilt. He and Dia, it was just basically Padula and Dia got off the plane, and that happens. He's played well, though. I mean, he's been consistent, kind of like, Hub and I guess combo of, well, Murphy's been consistent for a while now. I can't believe you gave up 59 points to Oklahoma in the second half. Good hell. You knew it in the first 3 minutes of the game. I looked over at the bartender, at older brother, and I said, my gut is, and I'm not negative Nelly Mississippi State fan, because I know that's a big chunk of the fan base. And with all the success they've had across the board, that should have changed. But after 2 big wins, and Oklahoma they were the last team out, right? According to Lenardi.
Right.
So when you're fighting your ass off for a bid, and you got a team that just came in back to back, big wins at Ole Miss and A&M at home, you can sell that. If you're even a pretty good coach, you can sell that. That guy at Oklahoma hasn't had a tremendous amount of success, but he's been there a long time. And those guys you could tell they were fired up from the jump. because they look at Mississippi State as a better team and a tournament team. And I think Mississippi State and Ole Miss are top 20 teams. I know their net rankings are outside of the top 20, not much, but I look at them as more than capable or in the discussion of a top 20 team. Can play like a top 10, but definitely can play between 10 and 25 most every night. And Oklahoma, and Mississippi, MSU just could not get the fire lit. They just couldn't do it. Hell, Ole Miss had to go on a 16-5 run going into half. They were getting their doors blown off. They go on a 16-5 run going into halftime. And that made that a game. Then they come back and actually get up. But now, that went back and forth all the way down, and then Vandy pulled away by 7. I think eventually won by 5. Y'all know how much I love watching Hubbard play. I think he's a fascinating player, built like a strong safety, 5'10", super high IQ, basketball IQ, right? I mean, so many of our kids over the years have been good athletes and they play hard. They just, they didn't have the coaching K through 12. They didn't have, and there's, the Sun Belt's gotten better, but high school coaching in this state has not been, I mean, there's only so many, Richard DeWeese's or Owen Miller's and there's some others. But obviously, I mean, the overwhelming majority. And so you think about it, like Hub came in ready to play. How many players can you name from Mississippi that come in ready to play? No, I'm serious. Over the last 20, 30, 40 years, how many players from the state of Mississippi?
Maybe 6, if that. That's a stretch, though. No, let me back that down. 4, 3.
So, I mean, it took Timmy Bowers a year and a half. I love Timmy.
Timmy's great.
I'm trying to think. The Provine trio was.
You can call
they
it.
Played day one, and so they were able to, get up and running and learn.
They strong-armed their way into that, though. That's not.
But their second year, they were obviously on a whole different.
Malik was not.
Q Weatherspoon. Which nobody talks about. Malik was day one ready too. He couldn't get over the foot injury his freshman year, but he had plenty of skills to play and played well at times.
Q, for sure.
I think Q is probably the one that he was overshadowed his whole life from 6th grade on because of Malik, and he played at Belma Jackson, which is more of a rural county school, whereas Malik was at the number one school at that time, in hoops, had kind of taken it from Lanier and Provine. Callaway had. I think, but for Q Weatherspoon to come in and play for Howland and play really well, and then Hub was day one ready because he's got insane basketball intellect, IQ, and he can play multiple positions, and he played against people in AAU. He played against the top teams, and he was on a great team.
Right.
I mean, he played against LeBron's sons. He played against all these guys that have been drafted. It is very, very rare. But I love Padula. He's a pain in the you-know-what if you're playing him. My God, I mean, he was 7 of 14, 3 of 8, 3-point land, 4 of 4 from the free throw line. He had 4 assists and 6 boards and 21 points. I mean, dude, in college basketball, that is filthy. Hell, Dia went 22 and 7. 7 boards, 22.7 board. Dia's the big man, as y'all know. And he's just getting better and better. Beard really hit on those 2 transfers. Damn nations. Dia and Padula, whoever him or those assistants, that's crazy talk, man. You know what I'm saying?
By the way, I'm
Big
a fan.
time.
I am a fan.
By the way, I'm a fan.
I love
By the way,
basketball. I
I'm a
love
fan.
college basketball.
Same.
I love March Madness. All right. Lunch today brought to you by Burgers Blues Barbecue.